The Detroit Lions fell short of their Super Bowl dreams, but a sight for sore eyes this week when star Aiden Hutchinson was back working out almost 4 months after suffering a broken tibia and fibula, which ended his season in mid-October. Hutchinson acknowledged the significant changes upcoming in the coaching staff, certainly an expected byproduct of the Lions' success. But he said, as long as we have the right guys in the locker room, you can roll anyone in there and call the plays. For more on that, here's Lions reporter Eric Woodyard.
In the aftermath of their shocking home loss as the NFC's #1 seed to the Commanders, Detroit Lions head coach Dan Campbell's star-studded coaching staff took a major hit. Former defensive coordinator Aaron Glenn is now the head coach of the New York Jets and hired away passing game coordinator Tanner Engstrand. Former offensive coordinator Ben Johnson is now the head coach of the Chicago Bears, taking with him receivers coach Antoine Randall and quarterback assistant coach JT Barrett. Oh, and former defensive line coach Terrell Williams has also accepted a defensive coordinator position for the New England Patriots. But even with all those changes, Lions general manager Brad Holmes remains confident that Detroit's championship window hasn't closed just yet. Why? Because they still have Dan Campbell and the foundation set to make another strong run next season.
I just think that all the pieces are in place that I don't really feel walls closing in.
For offensive coordinator, the Lions brought back former assistant John Wharton, who was the Broncos' pass coordinator for the previous 2 seasons, while Campbell maintained continuity by promoting former linebackers coach Kelvin Shepard to replace Glenn as the new defensive coordinator.
Wow, that's a whole lot of changes as we open up the Fowler Files with senior NFL writer Jeremy Fowler and NFL analyst Mike Tannenbaum, who has a folder in the. I hope you're charging him for that folder in your files.
$9.99.
There you go, and make him pay for it too early. Okay, Jeremy, starting with you. What's one area the Lions could be looking to address this offseason?
Well, edge rusher Jay is on their radar. They were really depleted there last year. They traded for Zadarius Smith, who's got $11 million on the books in 2025. They have to decide on his future, but they certainly could look for reinforcements either in the draft, free agency, or a splash trade. This is a pass rush explosion league-wide. You got guys like Myles Garrett wanting a trade. You know, could Max Crosby or Trey Henderson be moved? Those are big names that need new contracts. Eventually, they're going to be really big. So will the Lions try to make some sort of move like that? It would probably require multiple first-round picks to get a top talent like a Myles Garrett, who is a hard no from the Cleveland Browns, by the way. They still have no plans to trade him. So we'll see how far they go, but they're going to address that position in some form. Also, Kevin Zeitler, their guard, free agent. There's mutual interest in bringing him back.
All right, I know you said Cleveland said no, but we're going to talk about Myles Garrett because, Mike, I want you to listen to what Aiden Hutchinson had to say about the possibility of the Lions trading for Garrett.
We were just talking about what could be, and although it's probably unlikely, I think I would be thrilled to play next to him if it were to happen. But our whole D-line would be totally elevated. That'd be a scary defensive line, and we get along too. I think I've seen him these last few years at different things. He texted me after I got hurt, which I don't know, it was just a cool thing. Guys outside of your own team who reach out to you. I think so. I think he's a good dude, and if he does, great. But I don't know. We'll see. Yeah. We'll see. But that would be awesome.
And that's the cool part about the brotherhood. It really is. Okay, Mike. Aiden's like, it's not that much of a possibility. Jeremy's already said the Browns have said no. How realistic is Myles Garrett to Detroit, in your opinion?
Well, initially, maybe not, Jay, but if at some point Cleveland believes that Myles Garrett would retire and not go back, then it becomes very realistic because I really believe Detroit is in the one-player away sort of window right now to try to go win. And if I'm Brad Holmes and the Detroit Lions, I get the Browns on the phone and I don't hang up. I am not negotiating. I am paying the bill because if you have Zadarius Smith, a healthy Aiden Hutchinson, and a Hall of Famer in Myles Garrett, all of a sudden your pass rush goes from a question mark to a strength with a very potent offense. So if I'm Detroit, I am hanging around the rim and doing everything within reason and then some to try to make this happen. But again, it all starts with, does Cleveland at some point believe that Myles Garrett would retire and not play? And sometimes you just have to be patient to let that play out.
Definitely a situation to keep an eye on. Okay, staying in the NFC North, talking about the Vikings right now. Sam Darnold likely to become a free agent. Minnesota also has J.J. McCarthy returning from injury. Yep. Jeremy, what do you hear about the Vikings' approach at quarterback this offseason?
Yeah, to use Mike T's phrase, which I love, the Vikings are hanging around the rim with Sam Darnold. They're weighing the option potentially. I'm told that they are open to him coming back on a new deal. Talking to people around the league with other teams, they are skeptical that the Vikings would go the franchise tag route right now because you're looking at close to $40 million on a one-year deal, which maybe that could facilitate a tag and trade, but that's high coin for a player that is going to get a nice, robust market, but maybe not that high. So we'll see how that shakes out. But all options are on the table for Minnesota. But what was clear to me is that J.J. McCarthy will be the franchise quarterback. They have no plans to trade him. It just depends on whether that's 6 months from now, 12 months, 18 months. And watch for Daniel Jones. He was on the roster last year. He'd be a cheaper alternative to Sam Darnold. Could be some interest there to bring him back.
Okay, Mike, if you're the Vikings, how would you approach this quarterback situation?
Jay, sign Sam Darnold. I know the last 2 games didn't go great. That's been well documented. But what a season he had with Kevin O'Connell. And when you have a young, productive quarterback, do not let them leave. Look, they may have to overpay, to Jeremy's point, because the franchise tag is always, a tough challenge around quarterback negotiations. But if you're coming out of this and we're sitting here in August with 2 great young quarterbacks and Sam Darnold and the potential J.J. McCarthy, that's a great position to be in. 1, you can't have enough depth. And then 2, maybe somebody makes you an offer you can't refuse for McCarthy. So to me, a position of strength at the quarterback position is a great place to start the offseason if you're the Vikings.
All right. The NFL is 24/7, 365. Mike, Jeremy, thank you so much. Hannah?
Make licensure your New Year's resolution. Save 15% on PPI's proven exam prep and move your career forward in 2025. Start at ppi2pass.com.
Pack it, store it, ship it. If you need a box, Grainger has it. With over 1,700 types of boxes in stock, you'll find all the shapes and sizes you're looking for. And you can count on Grainger to deliver your boxes fast. Call or click Grainger.com today.
After a 6-11 finish to the 2024 season, the San Francisco 49ers have already made significant changes to the coaching staff, with more coming to the roster. So what does that mean for the Niners and Brock Purdy? Nick Wagner unpacking the interesting set of contract decisions San Francisco must make this offseason to get back on the road to contender status.
After failing to make the playoffs for the first time since 2020, the 49ers head into a pivotal offseason where quarterback Brock Purdy's contract extension remains the first order of business.
What we know about Brock is that he's our guy.
I plan on being with Brock here the whole time I'm here, and I know he's capable of getting the Niners Super Bowl in the future.
What a play by Brock Purdy.
Purdy has said he'd like to get something done sooner than later so he can be back with his guys in time for the offseason program in April. The size of his deal could determine just how many of those guys return. General Manager John Lynch has already said the team will release defensive tackle Javon Hargrave with a post-June 1st designation to create salary cap room. Receiver Deebo Samuel has requested a trade and also looks to be on the way out. What's more, contract adjustments for the likes of tight end George Kittle and linebacker Fred Warner could create additional financial space. And the 49ers have about 24 unrestricted free agents, many of whom they'd like to keep. Purdy says he doesn't want any kind of drama associated with anything, and that he wants to help the team with other players who need deals. However, that doesn't mean he will offer a substantial hometown discount.
As we stay tuned on that, we now open up the Fowler Files with senior NFL writer Jeremy Fowler, and apparently NFL analyst Mike Tannenbaum has a folder within the files, so he will be joining us as well. Let's talk Deebo. What are you hearing?
So Deebo Samuel, I'm told from a source that there have been several teams that have some preliminary interest. Now, where that goes is still uncertain. Those teams could try to wait out the 49ers, see if they eventually release him. The key is the option bonus, about $15 million due to him on March 22nd. So the 49ers do have time. He's got 1 year left on his deal. A new team could rework a contract potentially as part of a trade to facilitate things. I'm told it has not got that far yet. So combine next week, things should heat up a little bit when parties can talk in person. Keep in mind the 49ers have a lot of business to do. They got Brock Purdy, as Nick Wagner mentioned. They try to re-sign George Kittle as well. So they want to get this done in the next couple weeks. They can move on to bigger business.
Yeah, I mean, obviously Purdy is key, front and center, but who should be having some chats with John Lynch? Who should be dialing him up or meeting him for a late night hamburger there in Indy, Mikey T, regarding Deebo?
Hannah, the Los Angeles Chargers, if we go back a year ago, they had all these salary cap issues themselves, and they moved on from Mike Williams and Keenan Allen. They hit big on Ladd McConkey. Quentin Johnston, their first-round pick the year before, was better, but boy, what an ideal fit Deebo Samuel would be with Justin Herbert. You know, for his career, he's averaged roughly about 9 yards after catch, and that's exactly what Justin Herbert needs. When you run the ball the way the Chargers want to, they need somebody that can be productive with short passes, who's productive run after the catch, and Deebo Samuel would be an ideal fit with them.
Yeah, they were 19th in total passing offense last season. All right, let's stay in the West. Some questions. Obviously, we've been talking about it nonstop. Matthew Stafford's future under contract through 2026. That cap hit is just under $50 million, as you've been reporting. So what are you hearing there?
Yeah, Hannah, the people I've talked to with the Rams believe that they want to keep Matthew Stafford. They want to work out a new contract. They know that they would have to figure out something. He's due $27 million in cash this year. He is underpaid. It's still one of the top 5 to 7 quarterbacks in the league. So they have to work something out. But the belief league-wide is that the Rams will have a threshold and a limit as to how far they'll go with that money. He's in his late 30s, some durability questions. So they're going to have to try to find a sweet spot. If they can't, then teams are interested. Certainly you have teams out there, several teams that need a quarterback, whether it's the Raiders, the New York Giants, the Pittsburgh Steelers. I mean, this is something that a lot of people around the league are monitoring to see if the Rams can pull this off. But cooler heads could prevail. When I talk to people with the Rams, they do feel like right now that Stafford will be back. But something has to get done with the contract.
Yeah, it almost feels like the first domino to fall in terms of where some of these free agents are going to go, this like quarterback carousel that we're in right now. Mikey T, what do you think the Rams should do here?
I think the sweet spot's around $50 million a year. I agree with Jeremy Hanna. He is underpaid. You look at Kirk Cousins at roughly $45 million a year. I think it has to be north of that. If I'm the Rams, I do try to hold the line and say I'm not going to $60 million at the top end of the market because, as Jeremy alluded to, because of age and durability. But he played really good. If we go back to last year, they were 20 yards away from being the Eagles. By far the most competitive team the Eagles played in the postseason were the Rams. So I do try to find that sweet spot, roughly around $50 million a year. Both sides can claim victory. Stafford gets a raise. The Rams hold the line. And with all those good young defensive players, if I'm the Rams, run it back.
Yeah, and listen, if you have good young players on defense, you can afford to spend some money on offense, can't you? They have about 37.
What's up, Chiefs Kingdom? Welcome back to Total Chiefs, your go-to spot for everything Kansas City Chiefs. Glad to have you here because today we're diving deep into the latest free agency rumors surrounding some big names. Deebo Samuel, Kyle Pitts, Matthew Judon, and Greg Newsome II. Could one of these stars be on their way to KC? Let's break it all down. But before we jump in, I've got a challenge for you. How many all-time Chiefs quarterbacks can you name? I'll start Patrick Mahomes. Obviously. Now it's your turn. Drop one quarterback per comment and let's see who can name the most. I'll be giving a shout out in a future video to the top commenter, so start listing those QBs below. Alright, let's get to it. Starting with a potential new weapon for Mahomes, Deebo Samuel. Would he be the perfect fit? Let's talk about it. Alright, let's talk about Deebo Samuel. His time with the San Francisco 49ers looks like it's coming to an end, and that means he could hit the free agency market very soon. But here's the big question. Should the Chiefs go after him? Right now, Deebo isn't a free agent yet, but the writing's on the wall. The Niners aren't expected to keep him, and because of that, most teams won't trade for him. They'll just wait for his release. And when that happens, the Chiefs could be in the perfect position to sign him at a much lower price than his current contract. Let's look at the numbers. In 2021, Deebo was elite, over 1,400 receiving yards and a huge impact in the run game, but since then, his stats have dipped. Still, imagine what Andy Reid could do with him in this offense, lining him up all over the field, just like we've seen with Xavier Worthy. That could be scary for defenses. So let's settle this. Should the Chiefs sign Deebo if he becomes available? Type S for sign or P for pass in the comments. Let's see what the kingdom thinks. Now, speaking of offensive weapons, what about Kyle Pitts? Let's discuss. Now, let's talk about Kyle. Pitts. Could he be the future of the tight end position in Kansas City? That depends on one key factor, Travis Kelce. At the time of this recording, Kelce is expected to return for another season, but let's be real, he's not getting any younger. The Chiefs need to start thinking about the next elite tight end, and Kyle Pitts could be that guy. Pitts exploded onto the scene as a rookie in 2021, putting up over 1,000 yards, but since then, he's struggled. Is that his fault? Not really. The Falcons' offense has been a mess, and he's been stuck in a system that doesn't maximize his skill set. But here's where things get interesting. Andy Reid is a master at developing offensive talent. If anyone can bring out the best in Pitts, it's him. Now, should the Chiefs go after him? If Kelce retires soon, then absolutely. But if Kelce sticks around for another couple of years, does it make sense to bring in Pitts? That's where you come in. Should the Chiefs invest in Kyle Pitts? Type Y for yes or N for no in the comments. Alright, Chiefs Kingdom, let's switch gears and talk defense. If Kansas City wants to stay dominant, they need more firepower on that side of the ball. Two names floating around in free agency rumors, Matthew Judon and Greg Newsome II. But who would be the better fit? Let's start with Judon. At 31, he's a proven pass rusher with multiple double-digit sack seasons under his belt. Injuries slowed him down last year, but when healthy, he's a nightmare for opposing QBs. And let's be honest, outside of Karlaftis and Chris Jones, the Chiefs could use another veteran disruptor on that defensive front. Now, what about Greg Newsome II? He's been a lockdown nickel corner for the Browns and would bring versatility to the Chiefs' secondary. With Trent McDuffie and Jalen Watson already in place, adding Newsome could give Steve Spagnuolo even more options to create a dominant pass defense. The downside, he won't come cheap. So if you had to choose just one who would you want in Kansas City? Type MJ for Matthew Judon or GN for Greg Newsome in the comments. All right, Chiefs Kingdom, we've covered a lot today. Deebo Samuel, Kyle Pitts, Matthew Judon, and Greg Newsome descend, all big names that could make an impact in Kansas City. But now it's your turn to weigh in. Drop your votes in the comments. Sign Deebo, type S for sign, or P for pass Kyle Pitts. Yes or no. Type Y or N Judon or Newsome, type MJ or GN. And hey, if you love Chiefs content, subscribe to Total Chiefs and turn on notifications. More rumors, news, and updates are coming soon. See you in the next one. Go Chiefs!